So we got to talk about exercise, because I know, especially for weight loss, because I know so many of you, once you start fasting, you're like, exercise, schmexercise. Like, I found a tool to lose weight. I don't need to exercise. You need to exercise. So there's so many reasons why I want you to exercise, but on this video I really want to talk about weight loss and exercise, because I want to make sure those of you that are really working hard to really drop some weight, I want to make sure you're doing it in a smart way, not in the old-fashioned way where we used to be like more restriction and more discipline. You don't have to do that anymore. You actually can lean into science and look at what science has taught us when it comes to weight loss and exercise. And if you pair what I'm about to say with a fasting lifestyle, you've got yourself some gold, some weight loss gold. So here we go. Ready? So what the science says, I'm going to give you sort of two avenues to look at this, and then in the end I'm going to kind of bring them together and how it would look in a week. But what the science says is that the best way to lose weight is through high intensity training. So I will leave the link here for those of you that are the science hounds, so you can dive into that, to the most current research that I'm looking at. But I've seen this in our Reset Academy. We do a workout every Saturday morning, and I mix up HIIT training with the next workout I'm going to tell you about. But whenever we do, every couple of months, we do something called a fat burner reset, where we just come together as a worldwide community and we practice different principles of fasting and exercise and food to be able to lose weight. And during those weeks, I always do HIIT training. And I lead the exercises most of the time, which is really fun. So come join us. We'll put a link for the Academy in here. But what I want to emphasize to you is that when you are HIIT training, you are bringing your heart rate and your respiration rate up, and then you're giving it a rest. And then you're bringing it back up, and then you're giving it a rest. And what that does is it signals to your body to start to release a hormone called growth hormone. And growth hormone burns fat. And once growth hormone is on the scene, it starts to melt fat away. So if you are getting stuck with weight loss, more of this up and down with your respiration rate and your heart rate. So it could look like a lot of different things. The original study that was done, we have a lot more up-to-date study, was done from a Japanese scientist whose last name was Tabata. And some of you may know the Tabata training. But in Tabata training, what he did is he did 30 seconds on like all-out exercise as hard as you can go, and 90 seconds off where you're just resting. And he saw that when people did that style of exercise, that they didn't just burn calories in the moment, but they fired up their metabolism because they released growth hormone, and that metabolism stayed fired up for at least 24 hours afterwards. That was the original study. Now there's some new science that's saying that actually the best way to do HIIT training is to go all in for 3 minutes, like as much as you can get that extreme workout for 3 minutes, that is even accentuating fat burning even more. And I would say we're seeing this in my academy. I'm experiencing this in my own workouts, that if I can push myself for 3 minutes cardiovascularly, getting myself to about 80% of VO2 max, which means I'm bent over like sucking in air, that I can start to see the shift in the menopausal belly weight. I can feel the shift just in, I call it paddedness, that happens sometimes as you go through menopause, of just that extra padding you feel on your body. So it's in this hormonal reaction of HIIT training that the magic actually works. So you get to choose your amount. You might decide it's 45 seconds on, 30 seconds off of an exercise. You might try the 3 minutes. The way we do it in my academy is we actually do it where it's like 30 seconds of a jumping jack, and then 30 seconds of a high knee sprint, and then 30 seconds of a burpee, and we have all different levels in there doing it together. And it's when you mix it up in 30-minute chunks, the 3 minutes goes by very quickly. So HIIT training, it is your go-to when you hit that point where you're like, nothing's making sense in the weight loss world. I can't move the needle on weight loss. I want you to start to ask yourself, am I HIIT training? Am I doing enough HIIT training? So that would be a huge part of exercise. Second part of exercise, and I feel like this is very topical right now. Everybody's talking about more weights, more strength training. And I'm not saying, just because I'm over here saying HIIT training for weight loss doesn't mean I'm not saying more weights. In fact, I'm a 54-year-old woman. I am leaning into weights like you cannot believe. I'm like, how do I get more weight training? And the reason that weight training works is that you have a whole set of insulin receptor sites that get birthed as you build muscle. And the more insulin receptor sites you have, the more, think of them as little gates that you have for glucose to go into your body to be used for energy. So when we start to see that there's a bigger muscle mass in a person, whether it's a man or a woman, we start to see that they are more insulin sensitive. So there are two different ways of coming at weight loss. They both work really well, but the first and the quickest, like if it's Wednesday and you got a hot date on Friday and you're like, not feeling it in my body, I'd like to drop off some pounds, do some HIIT training. That's going to be your quickest way. But if you're a 45-year-old menopausal woman and you're like, oh, menopause has just killed me, I have so much extra weight, I really want to make sure that you don't just go all in on HIIT training and that you are doing some heavy weights. Because the more muscle you have, the more insulin receptors you will have, which over time will make you more insulin sensitive. They are both really important. Now, I can tell you, I'm going to share, like, full transparency, the mistakes I made during my 40s that I am now trying to recover from. So when I first found fasting, well, back up one step, I was a competitive tennis player in college. I've been an athlete my whole life. I love working out. And when I found fasting in my 40s, I was like, I had so much energy, so much mental clarity. It kept my weight where I wanted it to be that I started doing a lot of HIIT training because it was time efficient. You don't have to do a long HIIT training workout. And I sort of skipped the weights. Okay, I got to interrupt this video because I have a free guide for you so you can master fasting. It's called A Beginner's Guide to a Fasting Lifestyle. And all you've got to do is click here and you can jump right in. And when I moved into my postmenopausal time, which has been in the last couple of years, I started to feel like my muscle was really breaking down. So I went back to weight training. And going back to weight training is not a lot of fun when you've been off of weight training for like a decade. So I really am now a strong advocate for women over 40. Let's start picking up the weights. Let's pick them up and let's get strong. It's really important. But it's not the only thing you should do. You also need to be thinking about HIIT training because it has that growth hormone. And the thing about growth hormone is that once growth hormone is stimulated, so it also brings along all the other hormones with it. It starts to raise all the sex hormones. So both are needed. And for me, in a weekly workout now, I'm doing 3 to 4 days of heavy weightlifting. I'm doing 2 to 3 days of HIIT training or sprints. I like to sprint and just like so that I'm so out of breath. And then I'm doing 1 day of yoga or like walking or repair. And I kind of use those three. It's like yoga, walking, hiking, HIIT training, and muscle building, strength training. I'm sort of moving through a week looking at, am I doing all of those? But if I find myself only muscle building, I remind myself more HIIT training. And when I find myself more HIIT training, I'm like, hey, we got to remember muscle building, and I've got to make sure that I lean into the other things. So that would be the one thing that I feel like at 54, if I could go back and give you some advice, those of you that are in your 40s listening to this, please don't forget the importance of building muscle because, I mean, and all the postmenopausal women here put in the comments like the muscle breaks down fast, so stay ahead of it. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on exercise and weight loss. Again, there's no absolute. I really want to point this out. In the new book I'm writing, I'm talking a lot about the N of 1. N of 1, you be your own example. Take all this information, apply it, and find what works for you based off of your body type, your health situation, your lifestyle. So don't fall into the world of absolutes. In here on YouTube, in the social media, we love to be like, you have to do this. I like to take all that information, think about it, how does it work in the female body, and then I like to apply it and decide how it works for me. And that's what we all should be doing with this information. So put in the comments, what are your thoughts on HIIT training? How's it worked for you? Maybe even if you have a fun exercise routine, share it, because we are a community here on YouTube. But as always, do not give up on yourself. You're a miracle. If you don't feel like one, hang with me. I promise I'm working as hard as I can to teach you how your body works so that you know these strategies and that you start to believe in yourself again, because you're ridiculously powerful. As always, I hope that helps. I know a lot of you guys are looking to target certain areas, so you can check out the next video where I go through the 5 things you can do to get rid of flabby arms. Doing push-ups and tricep dips, do as many as you can until you're like, oh, no more. Now we've released all that sugar. Go in the kitchen and eat some protein. Maybe you eat some eggs,